Good morning. I'm having a day. I think this is my fourth time trying to do my weekly live. So for those of you who've been patient with me, thank you. For those of you who've tuned in for the first time, you know, this is not the norm. 10 a.m. Montana time, I do a weekly video, have been for about 5 years now, talking about the different things that we go through both individually, in our relationships, in the dynamics in relationships. And what I do is I coach through integration tools, like what is it that you saw, what can we do with that, and then how do we expand from there. So today I want to talk about the clarity that we can create on how powerful manifesting is. Okay, and if you haven't had a chance to like or sign up or subscribe, please do, because then you can get a little reminder that I do this each week. So first and foremost, what is manifesting, right? Manifesting is when we perceive something with our senses, primarily our eyes, that validate or are evident that something exists, right? So when we manifest, we're thinking about something and then it shows up in front of us. Or we're trying to find something and there it is. So the ship documents of the manifest. This is where it's going. This is what it's going to do. The idea that we can think of something and then turn around and see it out in front of us. So I'll give you an example. Right now I'm sitting out on a porch because it's sprinkling outside and you can hear the leaves and the wind blowing, which is fabulous. And what I wanted to do was get out and see red trees. And so driving around town looking for the best place to find trees in the fall that have that beautiful red background, right? And so now I'm thinking about that, and then what I start to do is I start to notice, oh my gosh, there's a lot more red trees in this area than I thought. And it starts to become self-actualizing, like there they are, there they are, there they are. And then of course, since it started to rain, now I'm up on the porch. So I had a conversation with this wonderful young millennial that I meet for coffee every once in a while, and he's very intelligent, very straightforward, and doesn't do woo. You know, like when I do energy and woo, he kind of rolls his eyes and smiles. And at the same time, he and I throw into, you know, concepts around constantly. So I'm like, could you give me an idea what manifesting is? And yeah, that's kind of easy, actually. You know, you think about something and you decide what you want, and you become very clear and very specific in your head about what is it that I actually want. And then he says you start looking for it, and then it starts to show up in front of you because you started looking for it. And I was like, okay, that's a very good example of what I'm talking about when we manifest, okay? I want to shift into the concepts of the Hermetic Principles. So there are 7 Hermetic Principles, and the first one is the principle of mentalism, which is that the mind, that what we think, life follows what we think. And all is in our mind first. Our mind is our navigator. Our mind is our programmer that says this is what we're going to create, right? So it's intentional, and we create what we want. And so within the parameters, everything starts with the mind, which is, what do I want to see? What do I want to experience? How do I take this in? So it brings form into what we're thinking. So if we break that down into the 4 elements, then mentalism, the mental component, is air. It's our thoughts, right? So there's 4 elements. So we have air, we have earth, which is what shows up physically in front of us, and these other 2. I think if we add those to the idea of manifesting, it becomes a lot more fun. So the first one is emotions, water, our feelings. So if we're thinking about what we want and we actually pair that with feeling what we want, that vibration, that resonance, it starts to take off with us, and it's like, there it is. So we can see it. We can see what we feel like. We can see what we feel like when we are viewing a tree that has red leaves. We see what we feel like when we've shifted out into a new direction, right? So we pair that vibration with that thought. Then the 4th one is that we put fire behind it, which is passion, momentum, action, which is actually that needfulness or that passion that says, yeah, I'm going to go find that. I'm going to get up off the couch and I'm going to go out and do that because it's important for me to find those red trees and take some pictures of them, right? So when we have the desire in the earth plane, the thought about how to create that, we pair that with emotions, and then we put that with momentum. We're taking all four of these elements and we're bringing it into form, right? We're bringing it in front of us. Now, interestingly enough, this is very important to know when we're dealing with the parent-child relationship, right? Because let's say that you have a first grader, a fifth grader, a middle schooler, or a junior in high school who isn't doing what they normally do, or they're struggling. You know, if it's a young one, they're not reading at the same pace as some of their other kids. Or in middle school, they start forgetting all of their assignments and they just start getting buried in their backpacks just full of a lot of stuff. Or in their junior year, they're sort of done and they've lost any sort of interest in wanting to participate in high school the same way, right? So pick any of those, right? Because all of you have children or have children at different ages or have been a child yourself, right? So what happens is something comes up and you get a call from the teacher or a note or an email, and it says, you know, hey, this is what's going on. And we drop into worry, and we drop into concern, and we drop into that critical, like, how did I not see this? What am I missing? And then we start jumping all over the place, and then we start honing in on what it is we missed. So what we do is we focus on the failures, the mistakes, the struggles, okay? So I want to introduce this concept of the funnel. And so we all know what funnels are, right? So this is just a traditional funnel. Things go in here and then they come out on a much narrower perspective. Now, if we have concern and worry and we're wondering, what are we going to do with this young child who isn't thriving in school? And we start putting all of that here. It comes through in a very concentrated target of pressure that can overwhelm your child. They can feel it, and it's condensed because it's got all that fire, that momentum. It's got all those emotions behind it, right? So this funnel, when we go into the past, something that happened, this happens a lot with teens when there's the issue of substance use or substance abuse. And they get busted, and then you realize that they've got weed cartridges all over their bedroom, or you realize that there's stash piles outside and that they climb out the window. You know, these are things that naturally come up, right? And then all of a sudden, everything you're doing all the time is looking for that wrong thing. Or the child can even change their behavior on this, and you still are looking for areas where you've made mistakes. So let's flip this around, okay? Which is, what if we bring in a very intent focus and we take it out and we broadcast it, which is, I see my child as safe and happy. I see my child as communicating something to me that needs to be addressed, and it's okay. So what we do is we bring it out wide instead of funneling it this way. Anytime we can open it up, it gets a lot easier. And then we stop nagging, we stop managing, and we create more of what we want and less of what we don't want. We stop worrying about all of that, right? So, you know, when we are stressed, when we are tense, when we are triggered, when we're in reaction, when we're judgmental, when we're thinking of the differences between us and somebody else, we're manifesting all of those in front of us. We're contracted and we're seeing it in the people in front of us. So manifesting seems to be one of the key tools that we need right now as we're trying to expand, as we're trying to create changes, as we're trying to see the world in a different way, to see ourselves in a different way, to see our children and our relationships in a different way, right? And so what we're doing is we're doing anything we can to expand. So I have 5 tips for you, and my battery light just went on. This is just a day. What can I say? Number 1, breathe. You can slow down your system and you can go, oh, that's right, I'm in reaction, or I'm in stress, or I just did a judgment. I can't believe I just did that. So bringing it into calm means, oh, have a little bit more of an idea what's going on here, right? So counting helps. Slow it down so you can expand. Number 2, catch it. There's a little zinger going around somewhere that's like your reaction, your reactive energy. So what you want to do is you want to find it. Something just happened. An event, a person said something, you just heard some news, and you get a reaction. So you got to go find it in your system. Oh, there it is. My heart's racing. I'm a little hot. I'm a little bothered. I'm a little tense about what's going on. So you find it and you start to explore. What are the thoughts around that? Oh my gosh. Do I want to expand those thoughts, or do I want to shrink them? So number 3 is talk to it. Like, oh, there you are. So why is it every time when I go here, I jump into this judgmental place, and then I start spinning all these little stories, and then I start expanding how bad those little stories are, right? So you define it, and you watch it, and you talk to it, and go, oh yeah, and then you do that. Oh yeah, and then you do that, right? And so what's happening is you're normalizing it, and you're getting an idea of the size and the impact of what's going on. Make sense? Number 4, flip it. Flip it. Play with it. Play it out one way, which is, let's go back to, what happens when we start putting all of our attention into the worry here about your child failing school. So when we focus on that, we realize, oh yeah, I'm triggered, and I can see all these ways that I'm worried about. What happens if they don't get through middle school, then they don't get through high school, then they don't go to college, and you start playing all that future tripping, right? Okay? So what we do when we flip it is we take all those stories and then we turn it over upside down. And we go into, what would it look like if I played that out forward in a different way? What do I know now that I didn't know before? Well, maybe my son is struggling with organization, and maybe there's some ways that we can help him. And maybe, oh my gosh, I struggled with organization. His dad struggles with organization. His older brother does. This is just a more concentrated version of that. And so what we do is we flip it and we expand it into all of the ways that we can help, that we can find joy in this, that we can become problem solvers without turning it into a problem, right? So when we flip it, what we do is we loosen up the grip of the focus and we start to let it expand and go out there. And then the last one, number 5, is to create the new thoughts, the new possibilities, the new opportunities, the new things that what else could work. Maybe this isn't the right school for my son or my daughter. Maybe I need to back off on the mistakes they made 2 years ago and forgive them and let them move on. Maybe I should see my son as absolutely healthy, or my daughter is absolutely healthy right now and thriving, and back off on my expectations so that you can create something different. So what we're doing is we're taking the focus out on manifesting and we're expanding it so that our children, so that our bodies, so that our relationships can start to breathe and not be so condensed and contracted into what we think we need to do. So manifesting ends up being a very powerful tool. And if you want to learn more about that, you can find me on DeniseDryden.com. My website, I offer coaching. I have more videos than you know about. And I would love to touch base with you and see if this is something you want to explore. Meanwhile, have a wonderful fall, stay warm, and I will see you next Sunday. Take care. Bye-bye.